Hey guys, what's going on? Hope you're all having a good day, and thanks for checking out another edition here of Intuitive Angling. Much appreciated. And just heading back from Table Rock Lake today. Wanted to do today's video pertinent to the thumbnail you see here in the title. I want to talk about slime on the bottom of the lake, talk a little bit about what causes it and what you can do to get around it and still catch fish. I think it might be an interesting video for everybody. And just like to give everybody a big thanks before we get started for everybody that's been checking out our View Product shopping tab on the channel. When the video comes on at the bottom of the screen, it says View Products, and it's a bunch of products I think you guys might be interested in checking out. So thank you for supporting the channel by looking at those, and let's get into today's video. Okay guys, let's talk about this Table Rock Lake today. Table Rock Lake is covered full of slime right now on the bottom. And this has become a problem more and more in the last few years with the overdevelopment of the lake, because a lot of this slime is created from a nutrient overload from excess nitrogen in the forms of like fertilizers from people's lawns, different type of pollution that comes into the lake. But it's sort of a byproduct of the excess nitrogen in the water, and it creates this nasty, slimy goop. It's not a grass or anything. It's just like this snotty slime is all you can say about it. There's nothing. It just coats the rocks, it coats the gravel bottoms everywhere, and it's especially bad this time of year. And different lakes across the country have this as well. Table Rock's not alone with that, but Table Rock, the problem has gotten a lot worse with the overdevelopment that the lake is going through right now and the increased pollution on it. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about dealing with this, because this is something that if you fish, it's going to be a major player as far as your techniques that you're going to have to use. First of all, when you have slime on the lake, the slime is the slime comes in different densities and thicknesses depending upon what part of the lake you're on. Now, there's not really any rhyme or reason for this, because I've seen areas where you can go into one cove and the slime's really bad, and then you can go into the next cove and there may be a little bit in there, but it's not quite as bad. So there's different variations or different elements to that, but overall you're going to have it in a lot of different places across the lake if you have slime in one area. So the first thing that you have to remember is that slime is going to affect the angler more than it is the bass. The bass will still relate to the bottom and to the rocks the same what they've ever have, except that it just makes it very difficult to fish with any type of a lure that makes contact with the bottom. So if you're fishing a shaky head or a jig or a crankbait, like you saw the thumbnail I put here, some crankbait hooks on there, you're going to be picking up the slime. That's just sort of part of it. And the only way that you can get around it is to fish baits that go above the bottom of the water, like jerk baits and swim baits and Alabama rigs and that type of stuff. One of the pieces of advice I'm going to give you guys is that a lot of times you can't really let the slime keep you from fishing the bottom if you need to be fishing the bottom. And ultimately what happens here is, like, if you pick a bait like a crankbait like I was using, you just have to deal with it. Sometimes you're going to get 2 or 3 cranks out of the crankbait once it hits the bottom before the bait gets slimed up, or it doesn't even work anymore. If you're fishing a jig or something like that, like today I was casting a jig some, and as soon as the bait hit the water, I'd hop it once or twice and there'd be a ball of slime on it. You can still catch fish before the slime gets too bad on it. Now, I'm not saying that bass will not hit a bait at all if there's slime on it, because I have caught fish with a little bit of slime on it, but if you get too much on there, it's not going to work. So one of the things you can do with that, if you don't want to deal with that, you just have to concentrate on lures that fish above the rocks, and you have to look for those type of water. So if you don't want to mess with the slime, I would suggest getting on areas that have a little bit of wind on it, where those fish tend to be a little bit more roaming and will chase moving aggressive bait. So windy points, windy banks, where you can still catch them on spinnerbait, jerkbait, swim baits, that type of stuff that move through the horizontal water column. And if you can't get any bites like that, and you're forced to fish where the slime is out. One area where the slime does not quite congregate as bad on is your steeper structure. So areas like steep channel swings, steep bluffs like that, you can be immune to it a little bit. But overall, if you fish anything that has a 45 to 60 degree angle bank or less, the flatter the bank especially, you're going to have to deal with the slime. So anyway, nobody wants to deal with it. It's a pain in the butt. It's just a byproduct of pollution and overdevelopment, another negative byproduct of that. The only positive thing that comes out, well, not positive, but just one of the things that comes out with it is usually as the water warms up a little bit, it tends to go away. But it's sort of like something that is getting worse and worse on our lakes across the country, particularly in the cold weather months. So anyway, guys, hope that sheds some light for you guys. I know it doesn't really help out that much because still you have to deal with it, but that's just it's been my experience with it anyway. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Much appreciated. We'll check later.